Hello, hello everyone. Hello everyone.
Hello, everybody.
This is Chris Wilson of Midweek Motivation here with
Andrew, her husband.
Hi. I am, as I do my little commercial while I wait for others to join, I am the author of Authentically You, Following Your Own Path, and I am a co-author of Down for the Count, Bouncing Back from Life's Blows, both of which can be purchased on my website, www.christinewilson.net. And I am also a contributing writer to today's Purpose Woman magazine. And you can get the hard copy of that sent to your home, or you can read the online versions at todayspurposewoman.com. Yay!
Yay.
So, hello Sharon. Thank you for watching. Thank you so much. Thank you, Evangelist Brenda Chin, for watching. Thank you, ladies, so much for coming into the room with us tonight. Cornelius.
Hello.
Thank you so much for watching. Thank you. Arthur Martin, thank you so much for watching. You are a regular. Thank you, Arthur, for coming back to hang out with us every week. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Arthur.
So before we get, Bernadette C. Haley is watching. Hey, Cisco. I'm live with y'all. This is the first
Bernie.
time she's been live. Hey, Bernie. So glad to have you with us live.
Bernie, our lifetime buddy.
Yes, lifetime buddy. Lifetime. I mean, for real.
Forever. Tell you how old she is, right?
Oh. Yes, Arthur, thank you so much. Love you too, brother. Love you, brother. So my shout out today is to our cousin, Pastor Latoya Barrett. Yay, Pastor Latoya.
Hey, Latoya.
Denise King, thank you so much for watching. So Pastor Latoya and her husband, Pastor Cedric, they pastor the Purpose Church in Wilmington, North Carolina. And though we've never been in service with them.
Yay, Purpose Church.
Yes, Purpose Church.
Well, not since they've been to the new building.
Since their
we
new
have
building.
been in service.
Yes, not at Purpose Church.
Not at Purpose.
So, but what I see from Facebook is that they are doing some outstanding, wonderful, work for the kingdom there in Wilmington, North Carolina. And listen, I am eager, to have an in-person worship experience with the Purpose Church family, one day. And I hope it happens one day soon.
Latoya, hit us up, girl.
I know, right? But today, coffee with Pastor Latoya was outstanding. Outstanding. She had so many words of confirmation, so many words of encouragement to me personally today. So I really wanted to shout her out today and say thank you bunches, Pastor Latoya. And actually, I hope to see you in a few days at the reunion, cousin. Arthur Martin says, happy birthday. Love y'all. Is it your birthday? It's not our birthday. Whose birthday is it, Arthur? He says, happy birthday. So, well, listen, as we go forward, trust and follow the process. Trust and follow the process. We began, hey, Christina. Hi, Nisi. Thank you for watching.
Hey, Nisi.
We began this dialogue a few weeks ago as a result of my experiencing a most unusual, emotionally difficult day, and my husband's words of encouragement and comfort that turned my entire state of being back around to the positive, faith-filled person that I typically am. His message of hope and deliverance to me that day is centered around the thought, trust, and follow the process. And his message ended with an acrostic for process. That acrostic is purpose, resilience, obedience, character, endurance, stretching, and strengthened. We've gone over purpose already and on some videos before. And listen, for those of you who did not see the video on purpose or resilience, you can go to my YouTube site. And you don't want to scan through all of the Facebook Live stuff. There's a lot of stuff in the thread. If you don't want to go through all of that, you can just go over to my YouTube site. And all of the videos that I've ever done are there. My YouTube is Christine Wilson-2017. So you can go over there. But for real, you should go over there and listen to I think it's actually 3 videos on purpose. And then inside the last video of purpose, we talk a little bit about resilience. Okay, so we've taken that acrostic and talked about each of the words. And today we're talking about obedience.
Obedience. Wow. That's a rough one.
It's a rough one. Hello, Eugene. Thank you so much for watching. Let me go back here. We went from Bernie, Eugene, and Josie McFadden. Thank you so much for watching. Oh, Denise King said, can you speak a little louder because gives a good need. Okay, we'll talk a little louder, Denise. Thank you for that. Okay, so with the we tie each of the words back to the acrostic process and our topic of trusting and following the process as we seek for or live in. You know, you may already be living in your purpose, but as we seek for our purpose. So last week's discussion on resilience was phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. I love the inspiration that, you know, given to Andy as he in real time expounds and unpacks the deeper meanings, you know, and truths given to him by God. So I'm going to give a couple of, Christina said, must be obedience. Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
While you're watching, why don't you give us a couple of likes and hearts so we know you're there?
And hit the share button.
And hit the share button while you're there.
Okay, so I'm going to give a couple of definitions to the word obedience, and then I'm going to turn it over to Andy because he has some stuff that...
No, she's not going to turn it over. We're just going to talk.
We're going to talk together, but I'm going to stop talking and he's going to start. Obedience. This is actually not definition. It's some synonyms to obedience. Compliance, agreement, submission, respect, duty, conformity. Obedience necessarily is the root word. The root word to obedience is obey. Obey. To follow the commands or guidance of. To conform to or comply with. To behave obediently. Okay?
Wow. I told y'all this was going to be a rough one, but it's still a good one. Because obedience is so powerful, so powerful. I got to give a shout out to Bishop Henry M. Joyner, my father in the gospel.
How was that?
It was difficult as a man. Most of my obedience that I've learned and still learning has been under him. It's difficult for a man to guide a man and even grown people. So when we talk about obedience, we're talking to a bunch of grown people. It is a hard subject to deal with because most people do not understand obedience. Obedience, while in the definition that she read, the synonyms, compliance, conformity, all that type of stuff, is really not what obedience is about. See, you can comply to something without being obedient
to it, right?
To it. You can comply and you can conform just to get along, to get it over, to get done, to be done with it. Obedience, there's another definition for obedience. Obedience in human behavior is a form of social influence in which a person yields explicit instructions or order to an authority figure. Hey, listen, to an authority figure. Do you not know as a grown person, you're the one that give authority to people? When you're out on your own, you're doing your own thing, when you got your own business and everything's going the way you want it to go, it's hard for people to deal with what obedience is. Obedience, once you get grown, is a tough thing because when people telling you to do something that maybe you don't feel is right to do at that time or that present time, it's a difficult thing to do.
It's difficult.
But most of the time we find ourselves complying. And in this definition, it tells us obedience is generally distinguished from compliance, which is behavior influenced by peers or conformity, in which behavior intended to match that of the majority.
Right.
We're independent people. We're leaders. We are pastors. We are teachers. We are business people. When you talk about obeying somebody, that's a very difficult thing.
Very difficult.
Most of the time we comply.
Hi, Roberta. Thank you for
But
watching.
guess what? If you're going to live a prosperous life in business, in church, in your social structure, obedience is important because somebody has been there before you.
Right.
And then you give authority to somebody. Compliance is what you do on your job every day because you get a check. There's a lot of things you would not put up with except that you get a check. So therefore you comply. It's not necessarily obeying.
Wow.
I'm reminded of a story that was told. It's a very interesting story about a little boy who was running around, jumping up and down. His father was like, "Hey, son, sit down." Little boy was like, "Well, I'm ready to play." He said, "No, I need you to sit down right now. Where we at is not good for you to be playing. I need you to sit down." So after some coaching from the father, the little boy just refused to sit down. So the father began to yell and then start making threats at him. So the little boy finally sat down, and then he said to his father, he said, "I'm going to sit down because you told me to sit down. But Daddy, you need to know in my mind and in my heart, I'm standing up."
Okay.
And that's what a lot of us do. We comply with things in our life, but in our hearts and in our minds, we're standing up.
Okay.
Somebody go and type on a screen, standing up.
Standing up.
Because the truth of the matter is, in a lot of situations with compliance, even in our marriages,
Hi, Sarah.
and those things, we are standing up in some things we don't agree with. So in our mind, we're standing up. And in our hearts, we're standing up. Compliance is not necessarily obedience.
Exactly.
You can comply and not be obedient. In marriages, that's what break up a lot of marriages.
A lot of them.
Because I mean, I have had the opportunity to perform marriages for a lot of people in some counseling that we've done, and everybody asks me the same thing. Most of these modern day women, y'all know who you are. You say, "Are you gonna take out the part that says obey?"
Obey.
I tell them no. I'm not going to take that out.
Right.
Matter of fact, I think it should be added to the man's part too.
Exactly.
That's in the vows. When we talk about obeying is not a bad thing. The reason why, again, most marriages go wrong is because a misunderstanding of
The word
obedience.
obey.
If there was something to be done, if I needed Chris to do something, or we came to a disagreement concerning something, when we talk about obey, it's not necessarily me telling her what to do. It's me saying or making a suggestion that she might not agree with right now. So what that does is that open up dialogue.
Right.
It opens up dialogue between us to
us.
begin a conversation as to, okay, well, why do you want to do this?
Right.
I don't feel that it's necessary that we do this. And then it's my job as an authority figure in my house to convince her. Did y'all hear me? I say convince her.
Gotta get
now,
buy-in.
listen, what I'm talking about is that a lot of our hurts that we experience in churches, a lot of our hurts that we experience in relationships deals with this thing called obeying. See, I tell people all the time in these modern day times, you need to interview your pastors. The reason being is because some pastors have a concept of obedience that is not even of God. God doesn't want us to check our minds and our heart at the door of the church.
That's right.
Neither do he want us to check our hearts and our minds at the doors of our marriage.
Right.
He wants us to have input.
And be
Therefore,
engaged.
every leader, every husband, every wife, if they have something that they feel needs, that they need to do together, and one says, if you want to put it in the category of somebody obeying somebody, it ought to open up a dialogue.
You should open up dialogue.
And then it's my responsibility as a leader to sell her on it. So if you're being led by someone spiritually, whether it's even if it's a business mentor, and there are issues where we would put in the category of obeying, we need to understand exactly what obedience is.
Right.
Obedience is not telling a grown person you do this and you do that.
Right.
And if
And
you
don't
don't do
question
that,
it.
then, you know, this is not of God. This is not the proper thing to do.
Right.
No. Grown people make choices.
Make choices.
And we suffer the consequences of our choices.
Absolutely.
Because good people will give us good counsel. And in order for that good counsel to take hold, we got to obey in some things, such as business.
Nina, thank you for
such
watching.
as business. If someone in business with you,
Right.
and they've been down that road before you, they made much more money than you, and they say, listen, I need you to do this, I
Right.
need you to do that. If you do this, and if you do that, then you'll prosper.
Right.
And you say, well, I'm grown. This is my money. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do this. I don't
Right.
have to do
I don't
that.
agree with that.
I don't agree with that.
Right.
If you don't agree with that and you don't do it, you suffer the consequences.
Yeah.
Later on down the road, you come back and say, you know what? Maybe I should have did it this way or that way because they've been down the road before me.
Yeah.
Again, being obedient is only to the person you give authority
to.
You got to be careful who you give authority to. You got to watch who you give your authority to speak into your life. People that speak into your life gives what they call explicit directions or whatever the case may be from the definition of obedience. That explicit direction comes from love.
Right.
It comes from foreseeing something. As leaders, we have insight into some things.
Right.
Sometimes we see the whole picture, and you might only see half the picture. See, that's where vision come in.
Hi, Lawrence. Thank you for watching.
A lot of people have vision. Some people have vision. Some people don't have any vision.
Exactly.
Period. Some dream dreams, others see visions,
right.
and then others are workers of the vision.
Exactly.
Depending on where you fall and depending on where you are and your purpose.
Exactly.
And your purpose might not include you having total vision of everything. I told you that it was Joseph who linked up with Pharaoh that made his dream come true. Joseph had vision, Pharaoh had the dream. Joseph had the vision, Pharaoh had the dream. Although Pharaoh gave all the power to Joseph, he still had to obey Pharaoh.
Yep.
And he did that. It wasn't compliance. He wasn't sitting down on the throne and standing up in his heart. By that time, he had came to grips with all the stuff that had happened to him. Listen, in your purpose, you need to come to grips with the stuff that has happened to you.
To you, exactly.
You need to identify those things that have happened where authority was misused. If people you give authority to misuse the authority, it soon become a sadistic, abusive relationship.
Right. So you have to trust these people.
If you don't trust a person, you should not give them the authority to speak into your life.
Exactly.
We've been taught so much about leadership in the churches and things like that we go blindly into things. We walk in the door and put our emotions and our brain to the side and our mind to the side and allow people to give direction in our life who are not praying for us, who are not a part of us, who are not in our daily activities or even concerned. But when people take the time to look at you and to talk to you and get to know you and get to know the things that are going on with you, those are the people you ought to allow to speak into your life.
Yep. When you give somebody that level of authority in your life, it's because you spent time with that person. You can't just, walk off the street and arbitrarily, automatically gain that level of trust in a person.
That's correct.
You have to spend time with each other. You have to have relationship. That even sometimes have to be some, rubbing of, to get some abrasiveness.
Correct.
And just getting to know people before you can unequivocally, I think that's the right word.
It'll work.
Unequivocally. Give that level of authority, that level of blind trust.
That's correct.
Because we've been together now for married for almost 30 years, 29 and a half years, but in each other's life for 37. So there are things that I know beyond a shadow of a doubt.
There's a story there. There's a story. But thanks be to God.
Thanks be to God. It's behind. It's under the blood now. Okay. But so since we've been in each other's life for so long, and we've had these encounters,
right?
Some agreements, some disagreements, some we agree to disagree on. There's a certain level of trust that I think we have for each other. So if I say something to you like, I don't really have a real reason for why I'm feeling this way, but I don't feel like this decision is beneficial for us right now.
Right.
I've seen you say, okay, you don't have a reason, but simply because you feel this way.
Yeah, but I was standing up in my mind and my heart.
He agreed, but he was standing up.
Yeah.
And the same has happened, the other way. It's like, you know what, Chris, I don't think you should do this in this particular instance, or I think you need to pull back from this type of a relationship because I see what it does to you when you come out of it.
Right.
And that has been, a thing that you've spoken into my life for, over the years. It's like, that relationship is not beneficial for you because I see the negativity being poured into you. And with that, it brings out a person that's not you. So
And real quick, when we talk about obedience, especially in authority, when we're dealing with our purpose and when we're headed somewhere, when we've obtained our purpose, we figured out what God wants for us. We figured out that we're resilient. We bounce back from some things. When we deal with our obedience, it kind of takes us back because we remember, most of the time, we remember the bad things of people who have given us orders and people who have asked us to do things and called us disobedient and all these other type of things when in our heart we knew we wasn't being disobedient.
Right.
We were just being adults. Reminds me of Moses in the wilderness. The children of Israel had got to a place where they'd been walking in the desert and they tired and everything and wanted something to drink. They wanted some water and they got to a place and they were asking God, they were fussing Moses out. Moses got upset about the people. Hear me. Moses got upset about the people arguing and fussing and thought that they were was being dishonoring to God. So God told Moses to speak to the rock, which is go over and be nice to the rock, and it's going to yield you water. But because Moses took a sadistic view of obeying, he took his staff and struck the rock.
Right.
That got Moses locked out of the promised land because he displayed what the attitude that was not God's attitude. God said, listen, the people were thirsty. I understood it.
Right.
I wanted to give them something to drink. Matter of fact, God said the reason why I'm so upset is because I became the rock in order to feed the people's thirst. We got to be careful and make sure that these issues that we're dealing with when it comes to obedience and who we're following, that they're hearing from God and there is no kickback from their own opinions and thoughts about what it should be without checking it out first with God.
Exactly.
Same way in business. You ought to deal with people who has information, who knows what they're doing. When you look into your purpose, you got to look for people going the same direction you're going.
People ahead of you on your lane.
If they're not going your direction, guess what? They're not going to give you good advice, and the obedience that they require of you for them to go along with you is not going to take you where you want to go.
Exactly.
So therefore, you got to be very careful. Hear me, be very careful. I don't want no pastors and everybody evangelists getting upset with me. Okay? Because what we need to do is we have to wake up and realize that we have to have our own mind and going into our purpose.
Exactly.
The dark days are over where we leave our thoughts and minds to the door. We're able to read the word for ourselves.
Yeah.
So in seeking your purpose, again, I said in finding your purpose, it's going to be between you and God.
Exactly.
I would love to tell each and every one of you what your purpose is. You know what? You got a purpose. This is what it is. I know you have one, but I can't tell you what it is.
Right.
Neither can I lead you to what it is. The only thing I can do is support you.
Inspire you.
Motivate you and push you and motivate you to be the best you could be. And if in that, I come to a point where I can give some advice.
Exactly. See,
it's not to make you comply. Obeying is a state of the heart. Compliance is just going along to get along.
Right.
Obeying is a state of the heart. Yeah. So when we talk about obedience is a state of the heart.
Right.
And most of us in our life and even in our jobs, we're not in a place of obedience. We're in a place of compliance.
Let me take a couple of these comments. The person in which requires obedience have to have your best interest in mind.
That's exactly right.
That was from Rosetta. Thank you. You're absolutely right. Absolutely right. Let's see. Do you think every person in leadership has the right to demand obedience?
Nobody has the right to demand obedience.
Nobody.
And one of the definitions that she read, it says respect.
Respect.
Okay. Exactly. Respect is earned. It's not demanded.
Yeah.
See, if I'm going to lead you, it's my responsibility to sell you on my leadership.
Exactly.
Hey, listen, I'm sorry for those people who've been in church all their life like me and think that selling is something that we ought not do, or convincing people is something that we ought not do.
You have to have buy-in.
I need you to buy in order for me to lead you.
To lead you.
If you don't see anything if you don't see anything in me, if you don't see anything in your pastor, if you don't see anything in those that you've given authority to, it's time for you to step back
Exactly.
and reevaluate where you at
Exactly.
and what you're doing. Because those people that lead you ought to be able to prove themselves to you as being worthy of being a leader and worthy of your respect.
Exactly.
And if they're not worthy of your respect, then definitely they're not worthy to speak into your life. Let's look at Jesus. Jesus took 12 men and he went and he discipled these guys. He didn't just tell them to do this and tell them to do that. He first did it.
He led them.
He led it. He first proved himself.
First partaker.
Before he sent the disciples out to cast out demons and to go out and witness in the world, he first took them with them and did it himself.
He spent time with them.
And spent time with them. And then once they did it, he called them back in and corrected what they did wrong and sent them back out again.
Back out again.
That's what it is. Leaders should be not just demanding your respect. They should be trying to obtain your respect through serving you.
Exactly.
It's simple. It's simple as that.
Doing it.
The best person to give you advice and to even give you what you call any type of orders or whatever the case might be, ought to first be a servant to you. If they're not serving you,
That's what leadership is.
that's what leadership is. Don't get it twisted.
Serving.
It's serving. So if they're not serving you, if they're not interested in you, and everything's about them, there's a problem.
There's a problem.
There's a problem. You're going to run into some issues with the obedience in that aspect. As I say, Jesus went through to prove that he was the servant. Therefore, he said, listen, the way I want you to respect me is that I'm going to show you what I can do.
Exactly.
I'm going to take care of your needs. I'm going to take care of the needs of the people. I'm going to show you what I can do. Therefore, proving that he deserved to be followed. So leaders today ought to be doing the same thing. Leaders today ought to be striving to serve those that they are leading.
They are leading.
This is not a presidential thing.
Okay.
You know, the president's office has gotten to the point where they don't serve the people anymore. We're supposed to serve them.
Yeah.
Same thing with the Congress and Senate. That was just my little blast on the politics right then and there. And that's the end of it. But if you want to look at it, that's the perfect example to look at it. The people that are supposed to serve are actually looking at you for you to serve them.
Right.
And we got to change that. We cannot have that same mentality
upside down.
in the church. It's upside down. We call you leader because you should be serving. Jesus said, let the one who want to be the greatest of them all be the servant to them all.
To them all, that's right.
So that's what we have to do. So no, people shouldn't be demanding.
Right. Nina said, be careful about who you give authority to speak into your life. Absolutely.
That is totally correct. As I said, and I've been saying lately to people, I had an opportunity to speak before a group, and when this question came up, because so many people are experiencing so many hurts in the kingdom of God today.
Exactly.
And I tell them like this, listen, I'm just going to be honest with you. You ought to start interviewing your pastor. Don't keep walking into situations where you're hurting.
Yeah.
And that you walk in blindly and give that same attention in another place. It's only going to drag on. You need to start interviewing your pastors to see if they're offering what you offer. See if they're going the same direction you're going. If not, then it's not going to work. It will not work.
Rosella said, obedience is to submit to the counsel to which you trust to guide you where they have already been.
Correct.
That's good.
And sometimes it's where you already been.
The leader.
The leader. Sometimes the leader, again, has insight. It's just like, by trade, I've been a project manager for years. And I've had a project design. And in that design of the project, there are different facets of them all. Now, I might hire one person to do this and one person to do that. They don't have the overview of the whole project. I do. It's doing your part. While you're doing your part in it, you ought to trust that the project manager has an overall view of it all. So when he's telling you to do this and saying and suggesting that you do that, what he had hired you to do, is not so much as throwing authority. It's the fact that I know that if you do this wrong, if you go 1 inch over this way, you're running into somebody else's lane.
Right.
The project will not finish and going to be off in the end simply because you decided that you see more than the project manager see, and you have not got a full view of the project.
Yeah.
This is what we do all the time. When we deal with people and people are saying, people tell us different things and what we should be doing, whatever the case may be, we need to look at the vision.
Exactly.
And
you have to have the vision.
Have to have the vision.
To see it.
But it has to match up with yours.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, adult people can't walk together if they're not walking in the same
in agreement.
Path, in agreement.
Yeah.
If you don't know what your purpose is, if you don't know what your purpose is, then you're going to test your resilience. I tell you that, because you're going to have to bounce back from something.
Yeah.
But the way to keep from bouncing back is and have to test your resilience is to walk and know what your purpose is.
Absolutely.
If you know what your purpose is and got it down, then you can start walking that direction. I guarantee you'll pick up people that's going in the same direction that you're going.
This is a good one. Nina says, how do we assess someone new in your life as a potential authority figure?
Well, like anything, it has to be proven. It has to be proven, especially today. And let me give this example because you know, this society don't deal with issues the way they are. There is a lot of single parents out there, a lot of single mothers, and everybody out there who look for help and look for things, look for people to come in and speak into their life and to do things. And some people look good. And it appears that things are good, but you need to test and see where the heart is before you start accepting people's authority over you.
Right.
You know, that takes time.
It takes time.
That takes time. There are some things that you can get into right away, but most things that involve you, that involve your life, that involve your livelihood, it takes time to get to know somebody before you allow them full access to your life. You know, stop just allowing people to come in because of recommendations.
And naturally, you know, when you've got a new person in your space, you get certain signs, you get certain indications, that's the word, indications whether or not that person is someone who you can trust to that degree. But it's not this first date. I mean, you know, you do have to build that relationship. You do have to spend time. You do have to talk. You do have to make sure that you are in the same vein. You're speaking the same things. You're of the same mind.
Right.
I think that's what I'm trying to say. You're of the same mind before you allow them that full authority in your life. Pam Bell is watching. Thank you so much. My Ingrid is watching. Thank you so much.
Hello, ladies.
Rosella said obedience could also be willing to agree to disagree, submitting to what others have to bring to the table. Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. That's actually compliance and conformity.
Yeah.
Understand what I'm saying about obedience. That's compliance and conformity. Sometimes you do comply because it takes time for your heart to get in something. So therefore, it's easier to comply with it, but you're still, like the little boy, right now you're sitting down. But you're standing up in your heart simply because you don't see the whole picture.
Right.
The father's saying to the little boy, maybe you need to sit down because the story didn't say whether they was in a car, didn't say what the issue was. But I'm pretty sure it was either a safety issue or just an issue with the father bringing some order to his son on how to act and where to do that at. Yes, I mean, so at some times you do comply to something.
Right.
Giving it time for you to come to agreement in your heart.
In your heart, exactly.
I'm not saying that compliance is a bad thing.
Right.
Compliance is not a bad thing. Conformity at times is not a bad thing.
Sometimes it's required.
It's required. We do it every day on our jobs.
Right.
We do it every day on our jobs. We do it every day in dealing with people. We comply with some things we comply because we know maybe it's no harm in it.
Right.
And it gives some time. You got some time
It
to
gives you time.
to assess and to adjust. But what I'm talking about is those things that's going to cause you pain. Those things that if you do it and it doesn't turn out right, you're going to be upset.
It's going to be hurt and painful.
Those things that if you do it, you're going to blame the person that told you to do it.
It could destroy relationships.
It could destroy relationships.
Yeah.
There's a story in the Bible about Naaman. Naaman was diseased. He had a disease, and he went from Syria to Israel to seek out the prophet Elijah concerning his healing.
Right.
Now, when he got there, he was upset, first of all, that Elijah didn't not even meet with him because he was a man of authority.
Right.
You know, you should have met with me.
Right.
But Elijah sent his servant and gave him explicit directions that you are to go down to the Jordan and wash 7 times in the Jordan. The leader got upset.
7.
And said, listen, the waters of Damascus
Right.
is much cleaner than they are in the Jordan. Why would you tell me? But his servant stopped him and said, listen, if the man of God had told you something easy to do,
Right.
you wouldn't be complaining about it. You wouldn't do all this that you're doing. Why don't, if you're the one sick,
Right.
try it.
Try it.
He went down to the Jordan. He washed 7 times and he was healed.
Came back healed.
He came back healed. Why? Because Elijah had insight and word from God, concerning this man's healing. Also, at the same time, God was dealing with the man's attitude. Yes, I could have cleansed you in the Damascus waters, which was much cleaner than the Jordan waters, but I didn't do that because I needed you to learn a lesson. And that is that I'm God. I can do what I want to do. I can clean you from a dirty place.
Exactly.
How many of us, matter of fact, how many of us have already been cleaned from a dirty place?
Wow, that's good.
How many of us have already been disobedient to different things and God has taken that thing that would have been a bad thing and cleansed us? And we thought that if we had went somewhere cleaner or did something a little different or better than what we thought it was, then things would have been better. No, you are where you are today because of what you've been through. Therefore, I'm telling you, look for those people who have your best interests at heart. In the book of Romans, it makes it clear when we talk about
607.
When we talk about obedience. When we talk about obedience in the book of Romans, it's Romans 6 and 16. Know ye not that whom ye yield yourselves to, you are servant to obey.
Right.
His servant are ye whom ye obey, whether it be unto sin or whether it be unto death or unto righteousness.
That's good.
Listen, we're all serving something.
Somebody or something.
We all obeying somebody. You know what I'm saying? Be careful who you obey.
Be careful.
Because no matter what you think, if you're breathing and if you're on this earth, there's somebody above you, not only spiritually, but here on this earth. There's somebody that's been above you, been where you are, or been where you're trying to go.
Exactly.
So listen, remember, whoever it is that you allow, the authority is the one that you obey.
Yep, exactly. So listen, guys, it is 6:08, and we try real hard to keep our time to 30 minutes, but we have gone over tonight, but I think it was good.
Like and share.
Yes, like and share. And Angel Wright, thank you so much for watching. She said, that's good. Doretha Foster, my sister Doretha, thank you so much for watching. There are still comments coming in, and Tambu Hall is watching. Hello. Thank you so much for watching. And Denise Romans is watching. Thank you. I can't get to all of the comments at this point because we are over our time, but I do want to acknowledge the fact that you gave us your time. Bryson Lucas, our nephew.
Yeah, and you can continue to comment.
Yes, you can.
We will respond.
Yes, we will.
We will respond. But next week, we're off obedience, and guess what we're dealing with? Courage. Exciting courage.
Yes, exactly. Thank you, Rayfield and D for watching. Thank you, Ola, for watching. And again, we're going to respond to the comments once we close the live for tonight. Thank you all so much again for joining us, and it's been great. It's been really, really good. So, as I always say,
share.
yeah, like and share. Like and share. Angel writes that this was my first time watching, but I enjoyed it. Thank you so much, Angel, for watching.
Thank you, Angel.
We don't take it lightly that you give us your time. So thank you so much for watching. And as I always say, as I close for the night, that let's make this our season. Make this your season to live out your reason. Be authentically you.
Authentically.
We will catch you next week. Come back 5:30 next Wednesday, and we're going to jump right into courage. Love you guys. Have a great rest of your evening. Bye-bye.